just explore a little bit beyond ideal.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Last week I did this thing called the Be Better Golf Mental Games Summit. It was about motor learning and then also performance. So we had Dr. Will Wu and Dr. Kevin Sverduk. So I showed a clip from Dr. Kevin last week that was talking about the performance mindset, like how to make your skills show up on the golf course. This is going to be a clip from Dr. Will's talk that was over an hour about how he did a swing change. He's on the team with Pete Cowan, Ben Shear, and others, working with Victor Perez, a player on the PGA Tour and also plays on the DP World Tour. So Victor Perez went through this really big swing change, going from more of like a sliding kind of player to a much more rotational style player. You know, Pete Cowan talks about the spiral staircase. Well, he wanted to go full into that and make this big swing change. So Dr. Will is one of the foremost experts on motor learning and motor control. So they wanted to do this big change responsibly because he still had to be earning money and advancing his ranking even while doing this big swing change. So he details exactly what they did in this long talk. So I wanted to pick out some things to share publicly now here on Be Better Golf that I think you can take with you.
Thanks, Brendan, for putting this on. Thanks, Jo, for hosting. Kind of when I was thinking about, like, Jo and Brendan put this together, like, what could I put together, what could I present to you all or share with you all? I usually do kind of very educational type presentations, and I give examples of the players that I work with, but this one I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I did a little bit more like a documentary, and it'll infuse the science behind the player that we're gonna be following. So basically, the gist of it is we're gonna follow a tour player who decided to make a major swing change. Today we'll focus on Victor Perez, but I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of professional players that have a variety of different needs and constraints and etc. But they've really developed how I work or how I institute motor control and learning principles. Question for you all, what generally happens when you make a swing change? What happens?
Play terrible.
You play terrible, right? How long do you play terribly? For a while, right? And so if you play terribly for a while, was it easy for you to do? Stick with a swing change? Is it really easy to stick with a swing change? Yeah, you might want to revert back. This was a little bit easier for you, right? And so it's a really difficult thing to do. And so if we think about the professional level, right? Just think about now, whatever you're doing for your job, you're a professional golfer, and then a coach says you need to make a swing change. All the meanwhile knowing what that's literally going to cost you, right? So it's a very frightful thing to do, or people fear it, right? And so what do you do if you have a player that comes to you and says, I'm committed to a swing change? Right? I know the ramifications that could happen, but I'm committed to it, right? So what we did as a team, we just scienced the living daylights out of it, right? So Victor Perez is the player that we're going to talk about today. So that's the February 2022 swing, right? So look how lateral that is. All right, so if we look at his ground reaction forces, he'll have a lot of movement that's in this kind of back and forth direction, right? So he played pretty well with that. He played in college with it. I don't remember if he was an All-American or not, but he went on the Challenge Tour and he went on the DP Tour like that. So it's definitely a swing or something that helped him to win. And this is at last year's US Open. This is a couple different, like a compilation of swings here. And so you could see in this first one, let me go to the back of this first one and see how less lateral is and more rotary it is. See that? I think all these might be, there's some. So a lot more rotary in nature, right? And so this is the golf swing that he's using now. Right? It's been pretty successful for him. For you all, you just have to know there are things that you can change, and you change things, and they're intentional and done well, then there's actually a good learning benefit to it, right? Rather than just doing the ideal thing over and over and over again. And those are your change options. I think mostly for you, it'll be, I'm trying to do this thing in my swing. It could be I'm trying to get my trail elbow closer to my trunk in the downswing, right? It could be something like that. So are you going to practice it the ideal way over and over again, or are you going to have some variations with it? Well, I would say variations, because we know our nervous system needs data points, right? And the more data points we give our nervous system, the better it is at locating the right one.
So sometimes Victor was practicing really sliding, really going lateral, the opposite of what he was trying to achieve, just the feel.
So for the higher end players, we don't usually need to practice the errors.
The wrong way. Okay.
Yeah. For the lower level players, practicing the error is beneficial. For the higher end players, is actually small increments away from ideal, like over. Yeah. Like Mike Weir was really good at it. Mike Weir would say, oh, this is like a 3.75. Over 3.75% over ideal. Or he'd go, that was like 4% over ideal. So he could be really micro and adjustable like that. We have things that are required in human movement. So human movement has spatial characteristics. It has speed-based characteristics. It has timing-based characteristics, and it has force-based characteristics, right? If there's anything that's required in motor learning, it's understanding those things, right? So if I said to you, I want you to apply more force, more pressure on your rear foot in the backswing, on the inner part of your rear foot, and I showed it to you, would that be very valuable? Because you're visual learner, let me show it to you. This is me putting more pressure on my rear foot. No, it's not, right? And so then it's saying, then you have to say to yourself, what is the, I call them perceptual streams, what is the sensory system that's the best for feel? Or best for force? I gave it away, actually. It's feel, right, for forces. What is the best sensory stream for timing? Can you see timing? You can't see timing. Can you feel timing? So what's the best sensory stream for is sound, right? And so what's the best sensory stream for spatial orientation? Feel? It's probably going to be vision, right? So those are the learning requirements. It's not whether you're like, I'm always a visual learner. That's total BS. Or I like to learn. There are definitely preferences. If I were to ask my son and then his practice buddy what their preferences are, they'll say something different. That's what they prefer. But we're talking about what they need for movement change, right? And so I don't know how we got on. Oh, so Victor was this type of athlete. Very, very intelligent, very analytical about what he's doing. So if I told him something, he'd want to know why, right? And he wanted to know, I think he got fed a lot of BS like throughout his tour experience. So he wanted to know if there was evidence to support it. And I was always open with him and saying, well, this is the evidence. We don't have direct studies to demonstrate this. This is me taking an educated guess based on the evidence. I was always very open about that. Funny story, when he was trying to learn how to hit a draw, his home court, he had 2 home courses at the time. He's a Frenchman living in Scotland, and then he also had a place in Spain. And so when he started doing this stuff, he was in Spain, and it was kind of like a Mediterranean-style course and had a lot of canyons and stuff. And so he was like, we did this thing called scrimmage, and I'll tell you what scrimmage is in a little bit, but it's basically taking the range to the course. And so I had him hit these draws and hooks, like different levels of right to left shots. And he's like, you want me to start over the canyon? I'm like, yeah, just start it over the canyon. And so he's doing it, he loved it, but he lost a lot of balls. And then his Titleist is one of his sponsors, and he's like, man, he calls him, I need balls. They're like, why do you need so many balls for? And it was just because the way we were practicing, he was losing them. But it was okay because it was goal-oriented. So I said, did you lose your ball and did you hit the hook? He's like, yes. I'm like, that's a 5 out of 5. Right? So it was really goal-directed. And that's how you want to look at it with practice variability. If you're doing it slightly over and slightly under ideal, there's an expectation of error associated. If it matches, then that's a 5 out of 5. Right? So you have to match that up. Right? Does everybody understand that? If you're practicing an error, there's going to be an error in outcome. As long as they match up, that's a 5 out of 5. You've gotten an A. And so the take-home message for you all is, most of you will probably be working on something mechanical in nature. Just explore a little bit beyond ideal, right? A little bit too much and a little bit too under. And I guarantee, well, I'll bet that most of you are going to live in the over of ideal, right? And then once you find that, you can play with it on the course and adjust it on the course. It's a really cool tool to be able to use.
Okay, so there, Dr. Will is talking about the importance of variability in your practice. I think almost all of us are guilty of like going through our bucket of balls, just trying to hit like perfect shots to maybe sometimes different targets, sometimes like the exact same target. But that variability is super crucial. And what that might mean is, like, for me, I'm trying to get my wrist a little flatter at the top. So I would want to be sometimes a little cupped, sometimes a little over flexed, and kind of play with that variability. I think a good thing I was talking to Will about is, if you think about like bumper bowling, or you put the guardrails, your body really responds when it's learning to kind of feeling where the edges are. So if you guys would like to see that whole talk and all of Dr. Kevin's talk, it's at bebettergolf.net/premium. So we're doing this Unlocking Performance. So it's called Be Better Golf Unlocking Performance. You get both of those talks that we had at the Ortega Putt Lab with Dr. Kevin and Dr. Will in a little bundle, and people have been really liking that. So go check that out. That's at bebettergolf.net/premium. Thanks to Will, and thanks to you for watching. Bye.